go. All right, welcome friends. So as we all know, we're here talking about managing hot flashes naturally. And so, we're all either in perimenopause or gone through menopause, and I'll talk a little bit about what all of that means in a second. And so if you're just joining us, go ahead and put in the chat if you want to, whether you're perimenopausal or post, and that'll kind of help lead the conversation a little bit. So go ahead and get started. Maybe, there we go. So, since you're here, I want you to consider this as like some self-care time. You're obviously struggling with something, and this is your time to learn some stuff and find some answers. So just turn everything off on the background, put the email away for a little bit. And with your emails for this, and I'll send it out again tomorrow with the recording, you have an Eating for Menopause guide that's got some really great stuff in there. Just lots of different tips on like eating, like how to eat and different supplementation and stuff like that. It's got some great links in there. So be talking about a lot of the things that I cover in that guide. So I am very curious. So 75% of women experience hot flashes.
It's thundering.
Like that's the telltale sign for a lot of us that changes are coming. And so I'm just wondering, like we were talking a little bit before we started, do you get hot flashes? Do you get night sweats? I had a little hot flash the other day, and I was like burned up. And again, like looking at my husband, I was like, is that hot in here? He said no. And I was like, feel my neck. And it was just, I could feel like the heat coming off of myself. And it's just, as I'm sure y'all experience, like, it's just the weirdest feeling when this happens. And it's because our hormones are all over the place. And, so they start during perimenopause. Like I said, it's one of the first signs for a lot of us that something is going on, something is changing. And a lot of times, like those first ones that you have are around the time that you're just going to get your period. Like your hormones are just, all wacky at that time. And so that can start causing hot flashes. And then post-menopause, as our estrogen precipitously drops off, that's when we can really start to have those intense hot flashes. So like the closer you get to menopause, the more intense they can get and the more frequent they can get. And some women experience these like into their 60s and 70s, and we are here to learn how to not do that. Because my goodness, like what just a miserable existence to be having hot flashes for that long. So, what's happening in a nutshell is, these hot flashes, I'm sure we're all aware, are caused by an imbalance in our hormones. And what's happening is our hypothalamus, our internal thermostat, is getting confused. And so, something will happen. We're going to talk about triggers in a minute. So either you'll eat something that triggers it, you'll do something that triggers it, your hormones are out of whack, and your hypothalamus is like, I don't know what's going on. So we're going to turn up the heat and see if that works. And so if we have not met before, hi, I'm Maggie. So I am a menopause health and life coach. I work with women in perimenopause and postmenopause on health and, all of the mental health challenges that come along with this time of our lives. I meet a lot of women who are, post-menopause and they're still struggling with their body image, with their weight, with just kind of like some hanging on baggage that they just haven't dealt with. And, that's no way to go through life. I feel like we all deserve to be happy. But sometimes for some of us, it takes more work than for others. For me, it's taken a lot of work. And I really have made it my goal in life to help others achieve that themselves. And so part of that story, my physical health story, is I really started struggling with my health. I mean, in my teens and in my 20s, it got really bad. Like when all my friends were running around, had all this energy, I just felt like I just wanted to lay down and go to sleep all the time. Turned out I had adrenal fatigue. I had some other things going on. I was a dirty vegetarian. Like I was a vegetarian for years. It was not a good one. And it really impacted my health. And so because of all of that, I pulled myself through that. I've really improved just my health inside and out. I know how profound the impact of that can be. And I feel like a normal human now. And I want to help other people do that too. So that is why I'm here for y'all. And so I want to make sure that we've got some definitions down. So we talk about perimenopause. You know, I think a lot of us know that that is the time leading up to menopause, but the definition of menopause is actually just one day in your entire life. It is the 1-year anniversary of your final period. And after that, you are forever postmenopause. And so, you know, that we kind of refer to this whole time of life as menopause, but when we start talking about, there's really some big differences between perimenopause and menopause, like what's physically going on. Like when our estrogen drops off and we're postmenopause, that's when a lot of the health issues that we're warned about really start to become an issue, like our bone health, heart health, thyroid, adrenals, all of those things. Really, we become at a lot more risk for major health issues once we go through menopause, because estrogen is like really magical and protects us in so many ways. And so when it drops off, that's when we start to see a lot of health problems. And so we want to make sure that when we get to that point that we're healthy and that we can take care of ourselves and remain healthy in old age. And so when we're talking about all these changes going on too, little health class here, a little review. So we've got progesterone. And so during menopause, progesterone decreases precipitously. Like we talk about estrogen, progesterone also drops off even more significant. Progesterone drops off more than estrogen. And so that hormonal imbalance causes mood swings. It causes the sleep disturbances, causes irregular periods as it's dropping off. And so that's one of the things at play here. The other is FSH, follicle stimulating hormone. So of course, you know, once we don't ovulate anymore, that's going to drop way off too. And as we're in that perimenopausal period, it's all over the place too. Like our body's, it's kind of shooting stuff out just to see what happens, you know, whatever it has left. And there's a little confusion going on in there biologically. And so that high levels of FSH, again, can cause those irregular periods that we're experiencing leading up to menopause. And it contributes to a lot of the symptoms we're having. And then we, of course, have estrogen, which is like the big player. And so during menopause, you know, like once we have that graduation, right, of like we're now postmenopause, our estrogen drops off because our ovaries are no longer producing it. And that leads to like that overall feeling of menopause. Like when we talk about it, this is really what we're talking about, because that's what causes a lot of the hot flashes and the night sweats. Like nobody's really certain like what the biological mechanism is, but they're pretty sure that it has a lot to do with estrogen. And you know, there's mood swings, vaginal dryness, stuff like that. You know, irregular periods, like when that is dropping off, when that estrogen is dropping off, that is what is causing a lot of what we're going through. The good news is that we have some control over that. So, you know, we're talking about hot flashes tonight, but here's just a laundry list of the symptoms that we might encounter as we go through menopause. You know, and we look at this like, this is no fun. Like I said, we have a lot more control over this than the general knowledge would tell us. So, all right, let's talk about hot flash triggers. Like I said, there's stuff you can do. This is one of the big ones, is there are foods that trigger us to have hot flashes. And or move on to, if you're like trying to figure out what's going on, write down in a journal, just like keeping a food journal, keep a hot flash journal and see if you can pinpoint something you're eating or something that you're doing that's triggering your hot flashes. For me, I found, we'll get this in a second, it's alcohol. It really depends on how much and what I drink. So caffeine, like most of us drink coffee. I know lots of folks love like their morning Starbucks, especially if you're getting like one of the fancy drinks. I know theirs are fun, but it could really be triggering your hot flashes. So first, like caffeine, hot drinks can trigger hot flashes because as our body is trying to regulate our body temperature, like if you're already struggling to regulate your body temperature and then you throw a hot drink on top of it, your hypothalamus is going to be like, what's going on? Stoke the fires, turn up the heat. I don't know what's happening. And so that's part of the reason why the caffeine and hot drinks can do that. And it's raising our cortisol levels, which I'm going to talk about adrenals in a little bit later. But raising those cortisol levels again, like that just gets everything going and again stokes the fire. And then your hypothalamus is again stressed and like trying to regulate your body temperature. And too much caffeine, like more than 2 cups of coffee, even if it's black coffee, doesn't have anything else added to it, still elevates blood sugar. And again, that's kind of related to the cortisol levels there. So, you know, even if you think you're doing good, but you're drinking like half a pot of coffee, you may be driving your hot flashes. And sugar contributes to hot flashes because what it does is it's elevating our blood sugar levels. And then that, you know, if you remember get back to health class too, you know, those high blood sugar levels are impacting everything in your body. And so again, if we're already have high estrogen levels, we're already trying to regulate our body temperature, and then we're putting all of these other factors on top of it, like our brain and our hypothalamus just can't do what it needs to do. And so things start getting wacky. And so another really important factor here, and I really want to drive this point home, is as estrogen levels drop off, our ability to process sugar also drops off. And so that puts us at major risk for things like diabetes, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, things like that. So as we age, like I was saying, our risk for a lot of diseases goes up because that estrogen level drops off. You know, sugar impacts us, not just our blood sugar, but impacts every inch of our body. And part of that reason is that it has no nutritional value. So we're putting, you know, if you're putting loads of sugar into your body and you're also not getting that nutrition on top of it to balance everything out, you could be doing a lot of damage to your hormones. And another trigger is spicy foods. So capsaicin, I'm sure you've all heard that word. That's what gives peppers, you know, hot things, their hot flavor. But what that does, it's kind of like the hot drinks, is, you know, it causes blood vessels to expand, causing you to flush and feel hot. And then again, your hypothalamus is like, what's going on? Turn up the heat, see if that helps. So, you know, for some people, that can also be a trigger. And like I said, this is something I'm experiencing now. I'm not a big drinker, but I have found if I have more than like 2 glasses of wine, I wake up with night sweats. And if y'all, you know some of you have experienced that. If y'all have not experienced that yet, it is one of the most bizarre feelings I've ever had. As I had a couple of drinks the other night and I woke up at like 4 a.m. and I was so hot and I took the covers off and it just felt like I hadn't done anything, like nothing changed. And so I just kind of like got up and walked around the house for a little bit. And I was like, not doing that again, learned my lesson. And, you know, part of that is because it expands our blood vessels, you know, so our body's trying to regulate our temperature more. It's also the high amounts of sugar and alcohol, like it raises our blood sugar. And so back to what we were talking about, you know, with the sugar, like it just messes everything up. You know, if you drink heavily one day, your blood sugar is actually impacted for about 24 hours the next day, regardless of what you eat, because your body's trying to get back into balance again. And so another part of that too is the type of alcohol can impact your hot flashes as well. So, you know, if you're somebody who loves like a fancy pink cocktail with the umbrella in it, that's probably not a great choice, especially if you're close to menopause or post, because of the sugar in it, and it's going, you know, directly into your system with the alcohol. So if you're somebody who loves that, you know, somebody or try, you know, something that doesn't have sugar in it, a glass of red wine, you know, something like that, that's just not super sugary, can really make a big difference. And so those are really like the big food triggers. And those, we're going to talk a little bit, you know, about like how to do that. But, you know, if it's something that, you know, like you like to go get your fancy coffee drink every day, or you're like a half pot of coffee person, just cutting down on that, and making a plan to say, okay, I love my 4 cups of coffee. I can't do that anymore. Okay, well, for 2 weeks, I'm just going to have 3 cups of coffee. And then I'm just going to go down to 2 cups of coffee. And then I'm going to go down to 1 cup of coffee. And if you do it slowly, you're way more likely to stick to it. And it's not going to feel like you're depriving yourself. And, you know, if you're somebody who loves like the big fancy coffee drinks, maybe try to limit yourself to like 1 a month or something. So, you know, don't tell yourself I can't ever have this again, because it's definitely not what we're saying, but it really comes down to finding that balance and the frequency of how much you're ingesting things. And the reason for all of this too is because, you know, like I said, when our estrogen levels decrease, we're at risk for a lot of other health issues. One of those is our thyroid health. And this is a very common problem in the United States. I remember sitting in a room with a bunch of like young moms when my daughter was small. We were all moms of small children. We got on the issue of hypothyroidism. And there were like 6 of us in the room, and 4 of the women I was with had thyroid issues. It's really common. So, you know, if you're somebody who already has a thyroid issue, make sure you're monitoring that very closely with your doctor. If you have, you know, somebody in your family who has thyroid issues, you're at higher risk as well. And you're at much higher risk as you go through menopause to develop a thyroid issue. And so, you know, that's putting at more risk of osteoporosis and cardiovascular disease. Our chance of heart attack goes up exponentially once we go through menopause. Women having a heart attack pre-menopause is almost unheard of because estrogen protects us so profoundly. So when that drops off, our risk of heart attack increases. And so if we're looking at things like thyroid health and adrenal health, that further increases our risk of having a heart attack. But it's not all doom and gloom, I promise. We'll get to the happy part in a minute. And so, you know, what happens is when estrogen levels decrease, like that impacts our thyroid receptor. So basically you can still be making T3 and T4, but your thyroid isn't processing it because it doesn't have that support from estrogen anymore. That has a lot to do with diet. So moving on, I want to talk about adrenal health as well. So what this is the result of chronically high cortisol levels and poor nutrition and stress. And when we talk about adrenal fatigue, it's kind of a misnomer because the doctor who named it was like, I think, you know, adrenal glands are worn out, but actually, as they've done more research, they found it's really the pathway between your adrenal glands, which are on your kidneys, and your brain. So it's like the road gets worn out because you're really stressed all the time. You're not getting the nutrition you need. And, you know, we all know like that when we talk about health, the doctors are like, lower your stress and eat more fruits and veggies. And this is a really great example of why, is because our bodies can't function properly without the things that we need. We need good sleep, we need exercise, we need fruits and vegetables, we need protein. If we're not getting that stuff, things start to wear out. And as we go through menopause and our estrogen decreases and we're at greater risk for these other things, making sure that we're supporting our bodies with a good, healthy lifestyle is so important. And it's going to minimize those symptoms that we're feeling, like hot flashes. And then there's all this other stuff going on underneath that we can't see. We can feel the hot flashes. We can see the hot flashes sometimes. And that is, you know, when that happens, the question is what's going on behind there and what's underneath. And then this is what is going on underneath. But can all be helped through diet and exercise. And, you know, during these really challenging periods of our lives, I think especially during menopause, because there's so much going on, it can be hard to prioritize that and find that balance and prioritize ourselves. But what I want you to take away from here is that prioritizing your health is going to reduce your hot flashes and going to reduce all of these symptoms and going to protect you from so much stuff in the future. Another thing that gets impacted, again, like it's the stuff we can't see, but then we get a hot flash and it's exacerbated by things like gut health. So again, declining estrogen impacts our gut microbiome. There's some really interesting research going on gut health and all of the things it impacts. But again, back to we're at higher risk for a heart attack when we go through menopause. That part of that is a change that by the change in our gut health, in our gut microbiome, also impacts our heart health. And then there's also the brain gut connection, which if you haven't heard of that, it's basically our gut is our second brain. So if you have poor gut health, your brain is going to suffer. And that means you might be experiencing brain fog. You might be experiencing depression and anxiety and things like that. And that's a lot of times coming from our gut. And taking a good probiotic can help. When I did my last workshop last month, someone asked a question about a probiotic that was specifically being marketed to women going through menopause. And it made these like, honestly, really outrageous claims. Like, I will tell y'all right now, there's no magic pill. And this was acting like a magic pill. It was like, oh, I took this and got my sex drive back and I stopped having hot flashes and, all of these things. And while gut health does impact all of this, there are so many aspects to having healthy gut, like a healthy gut. Yes, a probiotic will help, but it also comes down to what you're eating, how much fiber you're eating, you poop every day, like things like that. So I could do a whole presentation on gut health, but just know that it is really important. And taking a good probiotic, it does not have to be anything crazy or fancy. Jarrow brand is one of my favorites. And then another thing that we're looking at too is insulin resistance. And again, like everything that I just talked about, not just the triggers, but also your thyroid health, your adrenal health, your gut health, and your liver health. If those are out of whack, again, they're going to be contributing to your menopausal symptoms. Like I said, a hot flash is normal, but the more intense they are, the more out of whack your hormones are. So, feeling a little warm here and there, I wouldn't worry about that. But if you are feel like you're going to burst into flames all the time, and it's just like random, there's a lot that you can do for that and what we're going to be talking about in the next couple of slides. So insulin resistance is basically when your liver's kind of worn out and it can't really process your blood sugar anymore. And so this is also known as prediabetes. It's a very common problem, and it's especially common in women who are approaching menopause or post-menopause, because like I was saying, we lose that protection when our estrogen drops that helps us be able to process sugar better. So one easy way to do this is just try to cut down on processed sugars. I'm going to go back to the Starbucks example again, because I know people love that Starbucks. But if you are someone who goes and gets like a big fancy Starbucks drink, there can be up to a quarter cup of sugar in those. There's a Dunkin' Donuts one that has almost half a cup of sugar. And like, you would never go into your kitchen and be like, I'm getting the bag of sugar and just getting a quarter cup and dumping it in my mouth. Like, that would make you, right? But we will totally do it if it's mixed into a drink. And so just being conscious of the sugar that you're getting, and reading labels and just making sure that you're not loading yourself up on sugar without realizing it. So like I said, it's not all gloom and doom. There is good news. Like everything we just talked about can be helped through diet and exercise. And there's really simple things that you can do. So one, priority foods. Beets help boost the production of estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And so that's all things that drop off as we go through menopause. So that's one of my favorites is beets. But I know lots of people don't love beets, so I'm going to give you a tip for that one in a minute. Ginger's another one. Phytoestrogens. So phytoestrogens are basically plant estrogens. Lots of different foods have them. Soy is one of the big ones. We're going to talk about soy in a minute. And making sure that you're eating whole foods as well is another thing. So the more we process something, like the farther away from nature it is, and the less of the good stuff it's going to have. Turmeric, I know that's not like an American food, not a common ingredient, but I'll be sending out some links to some Pinterest boards that I have that have lots of like creative and also just like normal foods that and then include these ingredients. Again, flax and chia, like you're not going to go into your kitchen and eat a spoonful of flax, but adding it in your smoothies. If you're not someone who regularly eats smoothies, starting to eat smoothies, chia as well. And blueberries are another one, and they're amazing for bone health. So like we were talking about, as our estrogen drops off, so does our bone health. Blueberries, if you're like looking for something to eat that will help with that and taste delicious, blueberries are there. And exercise. So again, all of the common knowledge out there, all of the advice is healthy diet and exercise. But for a lot of us, like if you're not an athletic person, you might be looking at that and going, well, what does that mean? Because our image of health, especially on social media, is quite honestly unattainable for a lot of people, and also maybe not even something you want. So if that's your image of somebody who exercises, just throw it away. Walking is exercise. Finding ways to lift heavy things, because that supports our muscle mass, which also starts to drop off as we go through menopause, but even pre-menopause, like in our 30s, our muscles start to degrade. And that heavy thing can be your body. So I love body weight exercises. I exercise. I do not use weights. I just use myself. And making sure that you sweat. So this is another one. There's data showing that the more you sweat, the more you get up your body heat, the easier time your hypothalamus is going to have regulating your body temperature as you go through menopause. So it's a great way to keep yourself healthy and also minimize your hot flashes and keep them from getting, keep your hormones from getting too crazy. And as we exercise too, it helps our body dysregulate everything. Like we are meant to move and we are meant to sweat. We are meant to feel strain. And when we do that, all of these just amazing chemicals and hormones are released in our body. And that's why it makes us happy. That's why it makes us feel good. And it helps your hormones regulate. Intermittent fasting. So this is another one. And there's a lot of data out there on intermittent fasting, which is very favorable to, maintaining weight and losing weight. But I want to point out here that all of that data is based on young, healthy men, and our bodies are not those of young, healthy men. So when people start talking about like 24 and 48 hour fasting, that is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fast that we are designed for biologically, which is a 12 to 16 hour fast every day. So what that means is you wake up, you have breakfast, and then you're done eating by 7 p.m. And then you don't eat again until the next day. And so if you're somebody who likes to snack later in the day, maybe you eat dinner late, whatever that is, trying to make that move to just having that 12-hour eating window will do you so much good, because it helps your body. It gives your body a break, basically. You go to sleep, everything restores, and you start over again the next day. Post-menopause, there is data on this, and this is really interesting. That's where that 16-hour window comes in. We really benefit from having that like 10 a.m. to 6 or 7 p.m. window, because it really gives our body that chance to heal and to regulate our hormones. And if you can add on to that too, sitting in the morning sun for like 15 minutes without glasses on helps your circadian rhythm to regulate, which also regulates your hormones. Loads of data on that is really interesting. And I guess I hear on the slide, too long of a fast can actually do a lot of harm, and that starts to stress your adrenals, and that gets your cortisol levels up, and then everything gets out of whack. So making sure that you're eating lots of whole fruits and veggies, which we'll get to in a minute, and really having that good 12 to 16 hour window every day does a lot for our hormones. And again, we hear a lot about eat healthy fats, but what does that mean? And so when you eat anything processed, or you're depending on what cooking oils you're using, you could be doing some damage. So anything processed is going to have a processed oil in it, for the most part. You can read labels, but even like safflower oil, soy, canola, corn, rapeseed is another one that's actually the like real name for canola oil. Those are all very processed. They're not close to anything that we would find in nature. And so we know that when we take things that we don't find in nature and we put them into our body doesn't know what to do with it. It's not ready for it. And so what happens when we're eating these processed oils is we make cells. Back to biology class and health class, remember, we have a permeable cell wall, right? All of these things go in and out. But when we eat something that has a very processed oil in it, our cell wall is no longer permeable. So that means that cell does not function. And, if you have 100 cells that don't do that, that's fine. But when you have millions of cells that aren't doing that, that becomes a problem. And that's when your hormones get wacky. That's when you start having hot flashes. That's when, you start having that adrenal fatigue and all of those things, because your body just can't function properly. So again, if you want to just take something away from this and, find something to prioritize, go in your kitchen, look and see what oils you have on your shelf. And if you're using corn oil to cook with, or, canola or whatever, next time you go to the store, switch that out for some good quality olive oil, or anything expeller pressed, because that's just squeezed out. It's not processed. It's not bleached. It's just squeezed. It's very close to what you're going to find in the plant. And then also trying to get healthy fats from stuff you're eating, like avocados, nuts, good quality meats. And I want to point out to you here, because this used to confuse me so much, is, we talk about, eat nuts and eat healthy fats, but not too much. You are not going to eat too much avocado. You're not going to eat too many nuts unless it's like all you're eating, because you're going to get full. So, I would not worry about that unless you see yourself gaining weight. Don't worry about how many nuts and avocados you're eating. You're going to be fine. You'll fill yourself up. And protein. So, again, as our estrogen drops off, so does our muscle mass, and so does our bone mass. And we need muscle to keep ourselves moving, right? And also, if we're not eating enough protein, back to, our thyroid, our adrenals, our cardiovascular health, all of these things, things are going to start to break down. And I don't want to get too off the rails, but, nutrition in this country is largely ignored when we talk about weight and weight loss. And if you're somebody who's struggling with weight, you're worried about, gaining weight during menopause, eating enough protein, eating those good fats, eating all these things is going to help you stay in balance and not gain all that weight once you go through menopause. Because what happens when we go through menopause, so the estrogen drops off, and if we're not in balance, our body goes, we got to put on fat, because fat produces estrogen. Like, we don't have enough estrogen, so I got to put on all this weight to produce enough estrogen, because your hormones are out of whack. Like, your body's trying to find that balance. It's trying to help you. So if you can help your body by eating the way that we're talking about, then you're not going to have that crazy weight gain, because your body goes, okay, I have everything I need. I don't have to do anything for myself, basically. And so eating about 75 grams a day of protein, and there's a big difference between excuse me, the protein that we get in meat, because that is complete protein, and then has all of the essential amino acids, meaning we cannot produce those on our own. So we need those essential amino acids to build protein in our body. So, you know, if you're somebody who doesn't eat a lot of meat, and this may be contrary to some other stuff you've read, but I've done a lot of research on this, bringing in some will be helpful because it's going to help you keep on that muscle mass. And I have a picture of my favorite protein powder here, Complete by Juice Plus, because it is complete protein, but it's also, plant-based, and it is NSF certified, which means that it is tested. Every batch they make is tested. All of their products are, to make sure that whatever's on the label is in what they claim. You know, they claim what's on the label is in this thing, and also it doesn't have anything extra. And so in this case, that means heavy metals, because I'll get into this a little bit more later, but a lot of protein powders on the market have heavy metals in them because of the way they're processed. So this is very minimally processed. Be really careful about things like with pea protein in it, that you just find on the shelf at the grocery store, because what happens is they take the peas, like vegetables already bring up heavy metals, like that's just what they do. But usually, like when we eat them, those heavy metals are bound to the cells in what we're eating. But when pea protein is processed, they go through a hydrolyzation process. And so that hydrolyzed pea protein is broken down into little tiny bits, like the cells are broken down, and that releases heavy metals. So, you know, it's not something that companies are doing wrong. It's just the way that they're doing it, but it causes problems. Another thing is whey protein is very inflammatory. A lot of protein powders have whey protein, and you don't want to eat something that's going to cause more inflammation than you're already experiencing. So be really picky about what protein powders you're going to use. And I will send out some more information about this as well. And this is another product, Juice Plus, and I threw this one in here for a few reasons. One, I love it. I love both of these. I will say this one, I have a 7-year-old, and when we're doing anything with it, she'll sneak like a spoon and just eat it because it's really good. Like, can I have some? Like, you go for it. So it's just tasty stuff. And this one I wanted to add in here too, because if you're working out, it's awesome. It's designed for recovery, but for women our age, it's got all the B vitamins in it. We do not absorb B12 in particular as we age. That's absorbed through our small intestine, and just as we age, things break down and we don't absorb it as well. So this is an extra shot of B vitamins. It's got the C, it's got the D. A lot of us are low on that. And it has beet powder in it as well. So I was talking about beets before, like not a lot of us are going to be going out and just eating a bunch of beets. This already has the beet powder in it. And that is another reason I love it so much. And the star of the show, fruits and vegetables. You know, we talk about how we all need to eat more fruits and veggies. You know, if you go to any doctor, eat more fruits and veggies, eat more fruits and veggies, but we don't really talk about why that is. And, you know, we are designed to eat this stuff. Like we've evolved with fruits and vegetables, and we've even made them kind of adapt to us as well, because it has all of the things that we need to function properly, to be healthy. And so we want to eat fresh fruits and vegetables because they have enzymes, and what those do is they break down the fat, the carbs, and the protein. They aid in cellular repair. They help us breathe. They protect our nerve function. They help us detox. And we need 7 to 13 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. And most of us are not getting that. I think the average adult gets like 2 or 3. And so making sure that you are probably at least doubling your servings of fruits and vegetables. So I'm going to share with you in a second how you can do that easily. But a good way to do that too is just try to have a smoothie every day. Throw some spinach in there. I keep frozen spinach in my freezer, berries, have my protein powders, and I will throw that all in my blender. I'll throw chia in there or hemp hearts, and mix it all together. And I've already gotten a couple of servings of fruits and veggies before I start my day. And supplementation. So I get a lot of questions about like what supplements are good for menopause and perimenopause. And there's a lot of information out there. You Google and you get a big list of things. Black cohosh is one, red clover is another that comes up. And in doing my own research, I found that there's actually not a good set of data on that stuff. It's stuff that's been used for centuries, but when we've gone and looked at it and said, does this actually do what people claim it does? They don't. It might have a minimal effect for people. So I'm not going to say, don't try it, but there is stuff that we know works. So one, magnesium. It's great for bone health, mood, and sleep. A lot of us are really low on it. And it's kind of hard to process too. So even if you're eating foods that are high in magnesium, you're still probably not getting enough. And I'll throw in there too that like the fruits and vegetables we get at the grocery store are not the fruits and veggies that your grandparents grew in their garden or on their farm. They have a completely different and minimized nutritional profile. So we have to eat a lot more stuff to get the same nutrition our grandparents did and our great grandparents did. Excuse me. And then this is my favorite supplement, Juice Plus. It has 45 fruits and vegetables in those little capsules. And this has been instrumental in, excuse me, one second. I am having terrible allergies, y'all. I apologize. I'm sitting here eating my cough drop because they've been so bad, but I'm helping. So Juice Plus is my favorite. It has really helped me in my own health journey. Like I said, I had adrenal fatigue really bad. It got really bad after I had my daughter because I was just so worn out and I was breastfeeding and I was just depleted. And I didn't start taking it like for any particular reason, except a friend of mine was like, this is really good nutrition. You should try it. I was like, I need that. And made a world of difference for me. And then the omega. So another thing, like when I was pregnant, my doctor was like, you need to take a fish oil supplement. And I was like, those are gross. And back to heavy metals, like you're telling me that, fish are full of heavy metals. Don't eat too much. Don't eat too much. And then at the same time, you need to take a fish oil supplement every day. And I was like, this does not make sense to me. This one I love because it is completely plant-based. It is the only plant-based full range omega that I know of. They basically skip the fish. So they grow all of these, the algal oils, and it's got pomegranate, a few other just really amazing things in it. And it's a full spectrum omega. And it's amazing. So it's, just to give you an example, after my daughter had horrible plantar fasciitis, like I went to the podiatrist, I got a cortisone injection, like I was just in so much pain. And I'd gotten it under control, but there was just this little niggling irritation. And I knew if I did the wrong thing, it was going to flare up again. And right around that time, I started taking the omega, and about 2 weeks in, I was like, that's gone. I don't have it anymore. That is amazing. And so that acute inflammation just bugging me for years. And I started taking the omega and it was gone in 2 weeks. And I was like, that is amazing. And they've actually done studies on this particular product, verifying what I'm saying. Like that's an anecdote, but it's actually true. And so one of the common herbs that comes up when we're talking about menopause is St. John's wort. And there is a huge body of research on St. John's wort. I mean, it is amazing how much research there is, and it is an amazing plant. So if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling depressed, if you're just feeling off, like emotionally, St. John's wort is amazing. It is like a very mild antidepressant, but it doesn't have any side effects. And then B12, again, so we don't absorb it as well as we age. And low B12 actually has a lot of overlapping symptoms with menopause. And so if you're feeling really cruddy, go get your blood work done with your doctor and say, test my B12 levels and see where I am. Because you can do B12 shots, like I was talking about that perform. You can take a supplement. There's lots of things you can do for that. And one more. So I'm going to get to my little experiment on myself in a minute, but this was one of the big things I did in my experiment. So this product is amazing. I will tell you, I am an affiliate for the Juice Plus company. I have no affiliation with them in essence. I just really love this product. It is amazing. So it is a maca supplement, and maca is a root that grows in South America. There's like loads of different kinds of maca, and there's loads of research on maca. And what they've done here is formulated a maca supplement for women. They have 4 different ones, but in particular, they have one for perimenopause and they have one for postmenopause. So they have slightly different formulations. They have lots of data on these supplements in particular and what they do. And so for me, when I started having hot flashes, so I had been on Juice Plus for years. I've been really trying to take care of myself. I was doing great. And then I started having hot flashes and skipped some periods. And I was like, oh no. Because I will tell you too, like I have a history of anxiety and depression. And I read some statistics a few years ago that said, women, like the most common age range for a woman to commit suicide is basically between like 40 and 62. And what years are those, y'all? Like those are our menopausal years. Our hormones can do so much to negative stuff to our mental health. And that scared me. And I looked at my husband and I was like, you need to keep an eye on me when I start going through this. And I wasn't even having menopausal symptoms. I was just like, wow. And so, it was part of the reason why I really got into this. So I was like, I want to make sure I can take care of myself and I want to take care of other people as well. And so when I started missing periods and having hot flashes, it was like, I can't let this get out of control. And a friend of mine recommended this to me. Within 3 months, I had stopped skipping periods. I did not have any hot flashes. I was not waking up in the middle of the night anymore. Like it was the extra icing on top of the cake that I needed on top of my other supplements I was taking. I highly, highly recommend this. And I want to talk about supplementation too, because not all supplements are created equal. The FDA does not regulate supplements at all. So if you're looking for something, make sure that it has actual research that you can look at on their website. Make sure they're regulating themselves in some way, because the FDA is not going to do that. So like I was saying, the Juice Plus products are NSF certified. I do not know of any other supplement that is NSF certified. But they believe so deeply in what they're making and what these products do that they have paid for, I think it's 50 gold standard studies at this point. So like the highest level of studies you can find, and every batch that they create of everything they make is NSF certified. So they can say with confidence that these things work and they work the way that we said they do. And make sure that research is primary research. And so what that means is that research is done specifically on that product, not this is a vitamin C and we know vitamin C's are good for you, so you should take this vitamin C. It says nothing to the bioavailability of it, what's in it, what's not in it, how it's processed, any of that. So be really picky about what you're putting in your body especially when you're taking supplements. And I want to add into here, a lot of people I talk to, they're like, oh, I take my multivitamin every day. And it's a Centrum. And Centrum has no primary research behind it. Actually has a warning label on it that says may cause osteoporosis. Not sure how, I know that. And those pills like that, those hard pills are shellacked. So it could be the most effective multivitamin in the world, but if it's shellacked, there's a good chance that you're not actually absorbing it. Some of my friends in the medical field call them bedpan bullets because they just go right through. So if you have questions about that, email me, obviously. I'm really passionate about it, but I can help you find something that works for you. I probably know something. All right, so to recap, we have our trigger foods. Avoid trigger foods if they're impacting you. You know, like we were talking about sugar, hot foods, things like that, spicy foods. Thyroid, adrenal, gut, and liver health are at risk as we go through menopause, especially post-menopause. And so what we're eating and what we're doing, what we're putting in our bodies has a really big impact on not just our menopause symptoms, but also all of our other organs and everything that's going on beneath. So remember, if you're having crazy hot flashes, you're having, you know, out of control night sweats, mood swings, whatever, that is a symptom. And that means that something is going on underneath, that it's worth looking into. Trying to incorporate these priority foods into your diet, moderate exercise. So like I was talking about, lift heavy things, walk, do yoga, things like that, especially the closer you are to menopause. I would say in that kind of like maybe 3 to 4 year window, like right before and right after, your body's under a lot of stress. And so be gentle with yourself. Like, don't go decide that you want to be a power lifter right as you're going through menopause. Wait a few years. I have a friend who does CrossFit. She loves CrossFit, and she actually just turned 50 this week. And a couple of months ago, she was like, I can't do it anymore. She's like, my periods are crazy heavy, and like, I'm just exhausted. I don't feel like I'm making any progress. And she talked to her CrossFit trainer, and she said, how old are you? Oh, yeah, you need to be in this other group and not do CrossFit like that right now. Like, come over here and let me help you. And once you're done, when you're gone through menopause, you can start again. And then intermittent fasting, that 12 to 16 hour window, getting those healthy fats in, protein, phytoestrogens. I want to point out too, with like the Juice Plus Complete and the ginger, soy, things like that. They have those phytoestrogens in there. And so those phytoestrogens are going to help. They're kind of like the precursor to estrogen. So the more phytoestrogens that you can get into your body, the more estrogen you're going to be able to make, because you're basically giving yourself the building blocks. Fruits and veggies, you know, make sure that you're getting 7 to 13 servings per day, and then supplementation where you need it. So all the supplements I talked about tonight, I think honestly, like, we should all be taking. You know, the one exception to that is probably the Feminescence, just depending on where you are and what kind of symptoms you're having. Like, I would start with all of these changes and then put the Feminescence on top of that and see where you are. And then at that point, if you're still like having crazy hot flashes, you're doing all the things right, and you're still having problems, I think that's the time when you go to your doctor and start talking about hormone replacement therapy. What I tell all of my clients is, like, put in the legwork here, make these lifestyle changes, because when you do go to your doctor and they say, well, you know, how's your diet? How's your exercise? It's awesome. Like, I'm doing all the things and I'm still having these problems. So what's that next step? But if you're making these changes and you're supporting yourself, you're supporting your body in the way that in every way that you can. And then you're also going to probably need less hormones, and it's going to be a lot easier to figure out what's going to help you and finding that answer quicker. So here's my experiment I did on myself. I do not recommend this, but I proved it on myself. So I was taking Juice Plus products, you know, in the Complete pretty much every day for about 6 years. Like, I eat healthy. I'm gluten-free out of necessity. I really try to avoid dairy, again, out of necessity. You know, exercise, do all these things. And I started having hot flash. I started skipping periods. So I added in Feminescence, and it was like, awesome. I was like, I feel like myself again. I wasn't getting this afternoon fatigue anymore. No hot flashes, periods are regular. I was like, I feel like I should have it in my 20s. And I was like, okay, well, practice what you preach. So I told my husband, I was like, I'm going to stop and just see what happens. And so it's been about 4 months now. I'm getting back on everything real soon, y'all. I started having fatigue. I started having brain fog, especially pre-period. Like, this past week, I could not think. I was so frustrated with myself. I started getting night sweats, hot flashes, bloating, fatigue, brain fog. My skin started breaking out, and not feeling great. And so, but that proved to me, like, I'm sitting here talking about all these things, and, you know, I'm telling people what they need to do. I was like, what happens if I don't do these? And honestly, like, things fell apart. Things have not been great. So, I mean, but that, I hope that shows you that like this stuff makes a huge difference. Like what I'm talking about here makes a huge, huge difference. It does work. So I'm gonna, if y'all have any questions, please put them in the chat. I'm gonna do a little FAQ real quick and I'll get to your questions. So one of the questions is, you know, what's the best exercise, right? Well, we are all different, but it needs to be something that you like. We're not gonna do something that we dread. Like you're not gonna be able to drag yourself out of bed at 5 o'clock every morning to go run if you don't want to, if that's not what you like to do. So find something you enjoy. Like movement is movement. Your body does not care if you are running or doing yoga or chasing your kids around the house. It's exercise. And try to view it as self-care. So like I said, if you don't want to do it, you're not going to. So you got to find something you enjoy. Pay attention to your body's messages. Like I was talking about my friend who was doing CrossFit. She loved it. And then she got to the point where she's like, what is going wrong? I can't do this anymore. And so, you know, she had to make a change there and just do something 5 days a week. Like I said, it doesn't matter what. And then try to incorporate lifting heavy things in some way. Like I said, your body counts. You're very heavy. So, you know, you might get to a point where you feel like you need more, but if you're just starting out, just be your own body weight. Learn how to like do a push-up. All right. So why is sugar so bad during and after menopause? Like I really, if y'all want to take one really important thing away, I think it's cutting down on processed sugars, and eating in a way that's not going to make your blood sugar fluctuate frequently. So that estrogen aids in processing blood sugar. It really helps us regulate as it drops off. We have a hard time with it. And that puts us at greater risk for diabetes and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And I'll tell you just kind of an example of what happens. A friend of my dad, so they're in their 70s. This guy's a teetotaler. He's a retired cop. And we have the running joke that he loves donuts because this man loves donuts. It's so funny. He's so sweet and cute. But he actually has non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Man has never had a drink in his life. And it's because he has just been eating so much sugar for so long. So it really does make a difference. Cutting down on those processed sugars, aim for eating fiber. So basically eat fruit. You know, if you need something sweet, eat fruit, because your body processes completely differently. And, you know, in your morning coffee, try maple syrup and agave. They're really great options. They don't have the same impact on your blood sugar that like just white table sugar does. And then where does hormone replacement therapy fit into this? So like I was saying, you know, I tell my clients, like, do all of this, make all of these changes. And if you're still having issues, that's the time for hormone replacement therapy. But if you're not doing the changes first, you're really kind of putting a Band-Aid on the problems and not getting to what's underneath. And that means you're going to need more treatment and you're going to need more intervention. And so, you know, the more of the stuff you can do and the less intervention you can have, the better off you're going to be, because you're actually going to be healthy and not give your body kind of the fake healthy, right? The taking the hormones to get your hormones under control. But you're going to let your body do what it needs to do. And then you're going to have that little bit of extra help from hormone replacement therapy. And, you know, when can I expect to see a difference? So it really depends on kind of your own bio-individuality, where you are in your health journey, you know, what you've been doing up to this point, whether you're perimenopausal or postmenopausal. And there's a lot of factors there. But I will tell you, Juice Plus is a great shortcut because improving your nutrition is the most important thing you can do for your health. I mean, I don't care how great you eat, more nutrition is still better. And that's going to help your body balance all of your hormones. Like you're basically adding that fuel. When you eat good fruits and veggies, you're adding that fuel to help your body do what it was designed to do. And without that, your body can't do it. So I will say people usually start to see improvement in about 30 days. And a lot of times when you start making these changes too, you're going to lose weight. Like, you know, it's not why we're here, what we're talking about, but it's just the natural consequence of being healthier is your body's going to, again, find that balance and be at a healthier weight if you need to be. And then really that 3 to 4 month mark, that 4 month mark, especially like when you're incorporating Juice Plus in particular, because it takes your blood cells 4 months to cycle through. So the blood cells that you have right now, you will have brand new ones in 4 months. And so that means you cleaned everything out in that 4 month time. And so that's when you really start to see those differences. And then where to start making changes. So like I said, it's not a one size fits all scenario. And I'll get to that in just a second too. But you know, it depends on a lot. Like I said, it depends on where you are in your health journey. You know, if you're peri or postmenopausal, you know, what your daily routine is like, what your food is like. But I will say, you know, cutting down on sugar and caffeine, and then trying to make sure you're exercising in some capacity are really, really good places to start. But I think your best course of action, like if you're interested in what we're talking about here tonight, and I'll give you a link in a second, schedule a free assessment with me and we'll talk, and I'll help you talk through it. And this is, you know, so you can learn a little bit more about what I do, but also to just kind of help you figure out where you want to go. Like what's the best thing for you to do next? Where's the priorities? And so, you know, what I do when I work with my clients one-on-one is focus on long-term changes. So, you know, nothing is a quick fix. Like I said, there's no magic pill. There's some easy things that we can do. This is really about making long-term changes so that you can be healthy, you know, for the rest of your life. And what I do is transformational coaching. So what that means is you're going to change. And you need to be ready for that. But once you go through that change, you're going to love it. But so you really, that willingness to do things differently. And I work in 90-day cycles. It really takes those 12 weeks to kind of work through eating differently and making sure you're sticking to it, and really get a feel for, you know, what is going to make the most impact for you. I talk about supplementation, and we will talk about that in our assessment as well. You know, I offer meal plans. I offer a healthy eating program that you would do with me, but also when we stop working together. And part of coaching too is getting that support and accountability, and, you know, a kind ear, and then also a kick in the butt if you need it. And so that is all I have for y'all tonight. I would love to hear any questions you have, any comments. Please come schedule your free session with me. I'm going to put the link in the chat here. There we go. Thanks, Michaela. And I'll send this out in an email tomorrow too. And I'm going to turn off the recording just in case y'all have any questions. Off recording.